Hello and welcome to the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce Influencer Series. The Influencer Series is a spin-off of our highly successful Login and Learn web series. My name is Richard Pettis. I'm President and CEO of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. The Influencer Series is an intimate, thought-provoking discussion with prominent community leaders about the most crucial issues facing San Antonio. Our goal is to elevate policy discussions and keep our community informed. And boy, is that ever necessary nowadays. In the face of the global pandemic, ensuring that critical lifeline services are not interrupted has created an unprecedented challenge for the utility industry. Electricity is more important than ever as more people telecommute from home, conduct meetings online, and otherwise rely on data and electricity to get their jobs done. The decisions utility leaders make today to protect their employees, communities, and businesses from COVID-19 will undoubtedly impact future operations. Today's guest, and I'm so excited, is Paula Williams, President and CEO of CPS Energy. During our one-on-one discussion, Paula will tell us a little bit about CPS Energy's response to COVID-19, its effects on the utility's budget, and her plans for recovery. And now I'm going to introduce her. Paula is President and CEO of the largest municipally owned electric and natural gas company in the entire country. She leads a team of more than 3,000 people with the vision she has coined, people first. CPS Energy is evolving its efforts to create and deliver value to its customers, community, and employees into a new age of energy solutions. Paula has more than 30 years of leadership experience in San Antonio, 14 of which have been in leadership roles at CPS Energy. She was just recently honored with the S&P Global Energy Chief Trailblazer of the Year Award. And she, of course, and I'm very excited and appreciative of this, has been, in 2019, was the chair of the board of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. Paula, we are so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, Richard, thank you so much. And once again, I want to punctuate being chair. I found it to be one of the most meaningful civic responsibilities while also focusing on business at the same time, and really enjoyed your leadership, your team's professionalism, and the passion of the members of the San Antonio Chamber.
Thank you. It was a fun ride, so I appreciated you and me getting things done. It was fantastic. Thank you. All right, so let me start with our first question. So there is no doubt that CPS Energy is a large employer responsible for a variety of functions that can be categorized as essential, non-essential, professional, skilled, and non-skilled. How are you managing the organization in the wake of COVID-19?
Well, wonderful question. We are a large employer, but there's in some ways it's small, because when we think about 3,100 employees servicing a community, a metropolitan community, suburban cities, we are squarely covering Bexar County, but we touch 7 other counties. We service about 2 million folks, and so per capita, that's a lot of coverage for our workforce. And it is complicated because providing energy and making sure that we can generate it, transmit it, distribute it, and serve customers in what we do, we are an essential service. We have to keep the power grid up for San Antonio. And the majority of the power that we generate and manage goes all to this certificated area, but about 15% of our capacity also goes out to all of ERCOT, the big system operator that makes sure that power flows throughout the grid. We are in a connected system. And so the reason why that's important is that if there is instability anywhere on the grid, whether it's here in San Antonio or in Dallas or some other place, that instability can affect everyone else. So my employees totally get the designation of beation essential. We ultimately were proud because we got standing at the last Texas legislative session because our employees were considered first responders. And I try to tell people the reason why that's important is because, as an example, I may be talking to the chief of the fire department, Charles Hood, and he and I have had more conversations quickly about emergencies during COVID. And there'll be times where our people have to come in to provide assistance or clear any danger associated with maybe a down power line or a fire where they're concerned about the transformers in the area, all of those things. So my people are at the forefront of trying to get things done and keep power flowing and restored. The way we've looked at this is understanding that we are essential, all of us, whether we're in the back office or in the front office. But we did break the company up in three parts. We have a blue team, a white team, and an orange team.
Ah.
The interesting thing about that is the blue team are the people that you typically see in the blue uniforms. They're out there in the front line. They're handling, again, what we call the emergent work. The down power lines, car hits a pole and the line goes down, all those kind of things. They have to be out there. They wear it. They can wear anything from industrial face coverings. Our gas team, oftentimes, if there's a leak or some other issue around the gas systems, they'll wear an industrial face covering. I'm wearing a regular face covering because I'm typically not in the field. But we make sure that we focus our entire operations through the eyes of our frontline employees. We have to make sure that they're safe and that they're keeping the public safe. And that is a big deal. We have stood down every single area. We have tested for health. We've done health checks and assessments, tested temperatures. We have cleaned every location, everything that we need to do to try to keep them safe. And then we have a white team, ultimately, that is more the back office. They're behind the firewall. They make sure that security is good and well taken care of. And then we have the orange team, and the majority of the orange team are people who are able to work at home. And that's about 1,100 people. We sent 1,100 people to work at home, and they've been working at home since about the middle of March. And so we have strategies, and we've done our processes and made sure that that's been done well. We had to really work on the implementation of better technology using things like Microsoft Teams and WebEx and Zoom whenever we needed to, and constantly sending messages. I feel more, I don't feel like I've set the company up to be social distance. We're physically distant and very careful about personal space, but socially, we've stepped up our communication. And hey, Richard, I don't know if the viewers will be able to see this, but my light just cut off in my
Yes,
room.
I noticed.
And that is because we are big on energy efficiency and conservation. And so my light cuts off. If I don't move around, that means I really don't leave it now. And I can see you. Can you still see me?
I can see you perfectly.
Everything's
Yes.
okay. Then
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get around. Otherwise, I have to get up and dance or do something about that. So you don't get to see that. But that just goes to show you that I can talk quite a long time again about how much this has affected us. And the last piece I'll add is we were watching this development at the beginning of the year. We watched what was happening. We have a pandemic program and we have a business continuity program. So we saw it coming, but we never imagined the velocity of this pandemic, the way it moved across the globe. But we did start social distancing early. We did start the hand sanitizer, no shaking hands, and all those things. And we still are practicing all of those things and even more today.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the things that gets lost, and what you've just described is how massive your operation is and how wide and vast the area is, and as you've said, that big of an area for that small of a number of personnel is actually pretty darn incredible. So that's something to be commended. Tell me a little bit about, so you talked about some of the PPE already, that's now the phrase, right? PPE, personal protective gear. But you all have been using that for a long time. It just kind of was how you did it, right?
Oh my goodness. There's a picture. I should find it and post it. Every once in a while, my frontline team members, and I always say that underneath their blue uniforms is a big heart, because they have a huge heart, and it has a big S, on it. So they're super people, right? And they're out there doing it, and they know what they're doing, and they are passionate, and they think about safety. Safety is our core perspective. But whenever they can catch me, they teach me stuff. They're always teaching me things and explaining things to me. But one day they dressed me up in our PPE.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even have it all on. I mean, they put the belt on and the rubber gloves, because there are certain gloves that are used to make sure that they are protected from the current on the lines, those kind of things. And they had a good laugh because they put it all on me, and it's I'll tell you what, it's hot and
Oh my.
it's difficult to wear. I mean, and then when you watch our team members climb poles,
Mm-hmm.
40 pounds of
Right.
equipment and protective gear, as you say, that they need to have to keep themselves and the community safe. And so it has been a way that we have lived and made sure that we have this equipment, but it's an added layer on top when you have to wear an industrial face mask just to talk to people.
Wow.
I did do a video with our chief security, safety, and gas solutions officer, Fred Bonniwell, that you know
Yes, of course.
well, and he's over the gas solutions area. And we did a video right here in my office, and I pretended to come to the door as a gas customer, and he came as a field worker, a technician, a wage skilled, craft skilled person to come help solve, is there some kind of issue inside the home. And so we did a whole, it wasn't very good from the standpoint, we are not actors, right? We were trying to give our employees a sense of, we understand that they have to change everything from the dialogue that they have to the
Sure.
distance that they exhibit, to wearing PPE, the mask, the gloves, using sanitizer before they put their gloves on, the goggles, and the different types, whether they be prescription or not, and talk to them about it. You know, we understand how difficult it is. We're gonna show you, because we're gonna pretend that we know what we're talking about. And then we push that video to everyone again to reinforce that's important, to tell what they do in that conversation is they tell the customer their screening processes, that they wouldn't be coming to their home if they had a temperature, or if there was in any way that they had knowledge of being exposed to COVID-19. And then they ask the customer sensitive questions. Is anybody in your house feeling ill today? Has anybody been diagnosed with COVID? All of those things, and those are tougher conversations,
Sure.
but absolutely necessary to keep the customer safe and them safe.
Of course, of course. Well, that's fantastic. But I'd love to get that picture with you in the gear. Maybe if you get it to me, maybe we can add it to the to this.
That'd be awesome. I'll find it. They're trying to get me up in the bucket truck, but that's going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm with you. All right, so let's change subjects a little bit. So
Yes.
CPS Energy has been providing some much needed assistance to customers during this pandemic, beginning with a policy to cease cutting service for customers who could not pay their bills.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about CPS Energy's rate relief programs.
Oh gosh, sure. Well, in reality, we have existing programs that we've had for some time. We have a residential energy assistance program that is a partnership between the city of San Antonio, Bexar County, and CPS Energy.
Is that
On that
REAP?
board,
Is that the
that
REAP
is
program?
REAP.
Yes, of course.
Yes, and the mayor sits on it. Judge Wolf, the judge of Bexar County, and the CPS Energy CEO sits on it. And we put a minimum of $1 million every year, but we put more in if we need it. We actually put some settlement dollars in from a lawsuit that we waged and won. We put over $10 million in it several years ago. And that money is there to help customers who may have challenges. Their income, is at a point where they need assistance, and they need assistance a couple of times a year. We do that program, but we have senior discount programs, burn veterans discount program.
Mhm.
We have a wealth of them overall to try to figure out if there are ways that we can help. Now, our biggest program is um, the payment plan.
Okay.
And so we understand that in our community, where income levels have been challenged, we got a lot. You as well as everyone in the chamber knows that it was really tough last year to hear that we have a high ranking, if not the top ranking, in terms of um, income levels being low for such a big metropolitan community. And so in our biggest plan, we have this payment arrangement perspective, and it's a pretty simple program. Customers can call us at any point in time and say, I can't pay our full bill. Can you put me on a program that allows me to pay a portion of it? And so we understand that, and we also don't tell people they can only get that once. We will work with a customer all year long if we have to help them keep their power flowing. And so that program, out of the, if you count the number of accounts, we have about 850,000 electric accounts and 350 about thousand more of gas accounts. Usually, we have at least 100,000+ people on a payment plan. So that tells you how big it is.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because again,
Sure.
that is us helping them. We do have a program that we will suspend disconnects. We had that before COVID. We suspend disconnects in like August, the hot summer months. We don't want to have someone who gets exposed to heat illnesses because of that. And we also don't disconnect in around the December holidays because we want people to enjoy their families. So when we thought about that all together, the council had a meeting, and I think they tapped and they said, what can CPS Energy and other utilities do? We said, we have all these programs already, so why don't we put them together to help customers? So that's right away, we said, we're going to suspend disconnects. We're going to, in turn, make sure that we encourage customers to call us, because ultimately we don't have the ability to wipe off balances, because our whole business is a zero-sum game. Everything that it costs to make has to be billed. And so it's much better for us to work with customers and not let their balances get out of hand. They still get bills. They still get the information about what their consumption is. We tell them also about our energy efficiency programs, thermostat programs, all of those things to help them control their usage. If they do that and they make a portion of a bill, one of the incentives we have for customers is we take off the late fees. We'll just take it off. And so why create a bigger unnecessary balance? Why not just continue to work with our customers? So for what we do at CPS Energy, we tell our energy advisors, they are amazing. Those are the people when you call on the phone and you talk to them, and they are so passionate. Again, they don't have blue shirts, but they have S's under the shirts that they have. And they're there to try to help customers figure out what combination of programs can help them the most. And we're glad to do it. And we think it's really important. We are saddened by the number of businesses, small in particular, that have been affected by this, the number of jobs that have been affected by this. And what we want to do is be helpful so that we can partner with our customers and get on the other side of this COVID, global impact, and try to figure out how to get San Antonio back on its feet again.
Excellent. Well, those are such wonderful programs for this community. I can remember when I was on the San Antonio City Council and I learned about the REAP program. I didn't even know that it existed, because we had gotten a call from a family that was, had some issues and they couldn't pay. So I called your team at the time and learned about a whole bunch of stuff. And then we became, of course, advocates and pushed the programs out. And they really, and this was just a family that came on hard times, right? The mother got sick, the daddy had passed away, and anyway. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for continuing to do it. It's a big deal.
We are more than happy. Again, we understand anyone can have hard times, and for that, what we want is we want the families to be in a better position and have less stress as they go through it. So it is our absolute passion to be helpful.
Excellent. All right. So tell me a little bit about, by virtue of ownership, of course, CPS Energy contributes literally millions of dollars to the city's general fund.
Yes, sir.
Last year's contribution alone was $373 million.
Yes, sir.
These dollars have aided in keeping the city's property tax rates among the lowest of major cities in Texas. And it has done so while also keeping its electricity and gas rates among the lowest in the nation's top largest cities. What do you think, and of course, I'm asking you to look in the crystal ball here a little bit, what do you think is going to be the overall impact of COVID on y'all's budget to date? And then looking out maybe a month or two, or even to the end of the year, what does that look like, do you think?
Well, that's an absolutely great question that I get often. I mean, in reality, here's a couple of things that we have a challenge with is COVID really went into high gear in mid-March. And so we didn't have a whole month of actual activity, and it was early on, and people were just basically reeling from again the complexity of having no tourists in town, and no one booked at hotels where they were, and just jobs just kind of going into layoff status and all of those things. So we have a bit of information, but not a whole lot, because we are just now closing April's books. We did a preliminary forecast of what the potential impact could be, but we did scenario analyses. So we have the base budget that basically is a break-even budget. We felt good, and we've been able to pull out higher performing, financial years over the past several years, and that's because that excess capacity that we send out to the ERCOT market has been helpful, but it's competitive, so you can't bank on it every year.
Yes.
But we were feeling pretty good. But when we saw what had happened, we started forecasting how bad it could be, and we have what we call a high COVID impact case and a moderate COVID impact case. The COVID impact case that we did with March actuals said it could be a pretty challenging year, so much so that we might move from being almost break even. I think we were about $4 million of net income to maybe having $100 million loss.
Oh my goodness, wow.
And the moderate case was, I think, around $60 million loss. Now, we did that, and we do that to think it through, and to think about those implications, and think about what could we do to manage away from that. We still believe that the challenge will be getting our customers back on their feet so we can get back to normal operations, and again, keeping the cost low for everyone. So that is our big goal. And then we have always been focused on cost savings. What we have been doing is saying, with $100 million potential deficit, are there any costs that we could do to move them out to future years when we think the economy will come back? Is there anything we can do? Can we change the timing of spend? Can we change, can we renegotiate a expectation with a customer about a deliverable, because it could save us either income and or cash. Cash becomes king right now, because and let me reemphasize this for the members and viewers of this. It's not that CPS Energy wants to do it because we take all of our profits and send them somewhere out of San Antonio, and then some other investors that have no vested interest in San Antonio get the benefits of the equity returns.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, yes, we have bondholders. Bondholders, it's like buying your house. So instead of having to get a whole lot of money to buy a house, you get a mortgage so you can afford a house over a long period of time. That's what bondholders do. So you have those. But as far as who owns the utility, it's the community. The community owns it. The customers do. The customers, it's through the billings that we have that we're able to keep investing and renewing and maintaining the assets that we have. And so it is a zero-sum game. We budget it, and we figure out what it costs, and then we change that into billings. And any excess profit we get, we reinvest that back into San Antonio. And that's why it's so critical for us to do that. If, let's say, 50% of the people in San Antonio couldn't pay their bill, the challenge we would have is somebody would say, well, you should just let everybody go. Well, if you let a ton of people go, then you don't get power, right?
Sure.
And there aren't a ton of people for 2 million people. So there's 3,000 people. You start to let people go, you start to have a degradation in service. And what we've actually seen with COVID is people, they notice the blinks more than they ever did before. We get more calls, faster calls, because there are more people at home. So nobody would want us to do less, right? People want us to do more. And so again, we're trying to be informed and think about these worst case scenarios, but we're going to do everything we can to manage away from them and to help every customer. And hopefully, again, we don't get to that $100 million loss. Hopefully we can manage away from it. We do see businesses are already starting to come back, which is great.
Yes.
We're going to be really careful along the way, and you will find us continuing to social distance, though, to help people stay safe. So I will tell everyone, don't get offended if you walk up to me and I've got my mask on. I'm not trying to be funny. I can't afford to get sick, and I can't afford
Yes.
to let our employees get sick from me. And so we're going to be first in to the social distancing, the physical distancing, and we're going to be last out, again, to make sure that we can still serve the entire San Antonio community.
Excellent. Well, I think that's the right thing to do, of course, given the prominence of what you all do to the operation of the city, whether it's COVID or non-COVID. I mean, energy is a foundational element to operating. So thank you for doing that.
Our
So,
absolute pleasure.
So I know that you are, well, you are an energy professional. You have contacts with other utilities, whether they're municipally owned or not, privately owned. Tell me a little bit about, if you had some insight, how are we doing in relation to all those others? Do you talk to them? I mean, are they, is it similar?
Yeah, very similar actually. There's particularly the large public power group and the entire public power industry has been very, very connected. We have a big organization called the American Public Power Association, and their organization has been reaching out and sending materials and creating a network so that we can have connections to federal legislators about the potential implications that happen if we get sick. We have to have and continue to have a conversation about if we get sick. And I appreciate the acknowledgement that you have about the importance of keeping the power on, but we've had to have conversations about here's how to think about it. If the power doesn't stay on, then hospitals can't do their work. Yes, they have backup systems, but they also need to know that they can rely on the power of the grid for the extended amount of workload, patients, and all those things. And so Joy Ditto is the new CEO of the American Public Power Association, and she has been very active, reaching out to me and other CEOs, creating networks where we can have conversations together. That's been wonderful. Also, the Large Public Power Association, which is a network of large entities like CPS Energy, and we get together and we talk about, again, everything from our operational challenges to how is each system approaching what we call sequestered employees. Every single one is thought through from a business continuity perspective. If the community spread got to be of such a feverish pitch outside and inside the organization, we may have to quarantine through work processes some of our employees. And it's been very good amongst the Large Public Power Association to talk about that. We have the Texas Public Power Association that we are members of, and we're very active, and we want to know what's happening in Texas. And then also one of our related entities, Epicenter, as led by Kimberly Britton, has helped put together a regional connection. So Austin Energy, the Lower Colorado River Authority, LCRA, and New Braunfels Energy and CPS Energy have been talking about the San Antonio-Austin corridor and where are there synergies and where are there ways for us to exchange information and figure out who's doing some things that we can share in processes. I've also been able to talk to the AEP, which is not a public utility, but a IOU in Texas, and we were on the phone comparing our safety notes with their safety notes. Just it's such a huge, massive problem, and everyone that I've ran into wants to share information and wants to pick other people's brains, other CEOs and other safety professionals and other policy people. I will say that at a federal level, the assistance to help people with their energy bills hasn't been as clear. And so again, we've seen a lot of outreach, but folks have talked about rent, but haven't talked about utilities. And so even our policy and our public affairs people have had to step up and have more communications about what that could look like, not to do anything other than, again, to help customers around the nation come through this. So I would say that we are faring we're faring very well. CPS Energy, once again, early in the process with social distancing, early taking it seriously, early monitoring global impacts, watching the trends. San Antonio should feel confident that their utility continues to think global and apply the best practices it can to keep everyone safe from an energy perspective in San Antonio. That's how we look at our accountability.
That's fantastic. Excellent. So let's change subjects just a little bit.
Okay.
So the curtain has been opened and there is greater access to the public regarding the actions and deliberations of the Board of Trustees of CPS Energy. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on transparency. This is kind of a new way of doing business. What do you think?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, look, the thing I do want to say, it isn't that we haven't always wanted people to know what we're doing and to understand, where we're headed. We have had open meetings for an extremely long time. I mean, I think, back in 1942 when we first started this, the board meetings were open, and
Sure.
decades ago there was a discussion about opening board meetings. So we have had open board meetings for decades. What has changed is there's been a lot of interest in public commentary at every board meeting, and that was a big deal. And so we heard that loud and clear from several of our stakeholder groups, particularly the environmental stakeholder group. We heard it loud and clear from the mayor and several council members. That was important to them. And we had to think about how to make that process work, because that was something that we hadn't been doing, but we definitely looked at it as a value add. All that said, Richard, as you well know, we've always been interested in coming to the chamber and explaining
Yes.
what we're doing and participating in committee work and explain what CPS Energy is doing. We have some informal groups. We have a solar group that has been giving us lots of really good input to help us think about how to do better in our offerings in solar. We are starting a network group with the Urban Land Institute. ULI has been very interested, again, trying to help us shape our actions more proactively. Again, but that's in addition to chambers and the San Antonio Manufacturing Association and just all these organizations that we naturally like to do outreach to. Sure. And answer questions. The biggest change was the public commentary piece, which we have implemented and have been happy about. And so I wouldn't say that. Oh, and then we have an environmental stakeholders group that we've been meeting with for years. And so it isn't that we haven't wanted it, it's just been different. Yeah. And we're doing our best to keep incorporating suggestions that we get from all of these groups.
Well, and I think one of the challenges, I'll be very honest with you, when I was an elected official back, I sat on the city council, when folks would come up for the public comment period, sometimes they would be very good. I have this problem and can you help me with this? But sometimes it was not as flattering, and it was actually an opportunity for them to vent. And as an elected official, I got that my job was to accept that. But of course, y'all are not elected officials. I mean, I think the mayor is the only one that's on your board. And so I think that's kind of an odd spot to put your board in. It is what it is, but you have to get a tough skin for those kinds of things, because it cannot be easy sometimes.
That is very true. I will say, part of our people first philosophy is respecting everyone. I believe that anyone can tell me anything, and I believe that our board is extremely open to differing opinions. The biggest thing we ask is that people, that they're respectful. And I have to say, I have been pleased that We don't always agree, but I think the respect level has been very good. Sometimes you can see frustration with, but because these are very passionate issues that we get into. The nexus point between the environment and energy is just a big deal, and it's big globally as well. So we appreciate the fact that people are passionate about it, and we just ask for that professionalism, and we've gotten it, and so we are pleased from that standpoint. I do want to talk a little bit about, we have an organization that you were very familiar with when you were on the council. It's called the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Yes, of course.
They are also are not publicly elected officials. They're on a committee that takes up input, and what they do is they meet at least monthly. So they have a pretty big requirement. They come in for monthly meetings, but in between they reach out to their council member. 10 of the 15 members are appointed by council. So they'll go and talk to their council members, both trying to understand things that the council members interested in, and in turn to also share things that CPS Energy is doing. But they also go out to neighborhood association meetings. They go out to our People First Care fairs. They go out to a lot of different organizations and events. And in turn, they come back in and give us feedback. They're a great feedback mechanism, and it was initiated by the council to do that. But they're not elected officials. They look at everything from how could we better serve customers to what compliance issues are coming down the pike that we need to manage. I mean, they look at a wide range of items, and they've been extremely helpful in giving us counsel. But we want counsel, and from many different ways. We take it at public People First Care fairs.
Sure.
We are just open to as much feedback as we can get, and we know how busy people are, but we do have this established mechanism. There's again 10 members that are council appointed, and then 5 at-large members, which has actually been very effective because not everyone lives in the city of San Antonio.
Sure. Sure.
Suburban cities, that we have representations, and we have the mayor of Live Oak, Mary Dennis, is on
Sure.
Our CAC, and then we have membership from other organizations as well. So we have a nice balance of business and education and civic leaders, those kind of things, and that's been helpful. But it's just different. They're not elected officials.
Well, I can tell you that I've seen the work that the CCC does, the CAC does, and it's a lot. It's heavy duty work, but it's important work, and so we need to give them our thanks because it's thankless work sometimes.
Yes.
But they have a passion to help and to get involved, and so I'm glad that you're using all of their input and putting it to good use with as you make decisions, right, and continue
Absolutely.
to improve everything. So we're kind of coming to the end of our time together, Paula, and I don't want to hold you here too awful long, but I do have one question that I'd like to close with.
Yeah.
And it's really about you. So CPS Energy bucks state and national norms with gender and racial diversity at the helm. And
Yes.
by that, I mean you. You are, you're unique in the position that you hold at CPS Energy. And folks like you, there's not a lot of them throughout the nation in those positions. Tell me a little bit about how you feel as a leader heading the nation's largest municipally owned utility. What can you say? How does that feel? What do you do?
Well, for clarity, people will go, "Are you really the largest?" We are electric and gas as a combination. We are, and I feel a lot of things. One, I feel most proud and honored because this is the community I was born in. There are a lot of executives that get an opportunity to lead, and they have to leave their community to do that. They have to experience that. And that happens a lot, as you well know. Executives have to move around to get experience, exposure, and opportunity. For me to be in the community that I was born in, I was born at Wilford Hall. I grew up on the east side of town. I didn't know what a CEO was. I had no idea. I don't even know if I understood what a CEO was until I came to CPS Energy, well before I became one. And I didn't know professionals. And to think that, I was the first one in my family to get 2 degrees, let alone 1 degree.
Sure.
I actually have 3. I have an associate's degree from this community, from San Antonio College. I have an undergrad degree from St. Mary's University, and I have a master's degree from Regis University as well. But to get 2 of those 3 here, and again, I said yes a lot. I never thought I'd become CEO. I never thought I'd have that honor, but to find myself here now and be able to love what I do and have so much admiration for the team. I think my team, my 3,100 people, they care so much, right? To be so mission driven, to know that our $370 million of contribution while keeping bills affordable in comparison to major markets across the nation and Texas, to know we understand that. I mean, I've never worked at a place with this much foundational value for me, and to be able to do it as a member of this community. I've been a customer longer than I've been an employee or a CEO, and to be here, that means a lot. Now, I keep looking a little bit, not much, but when I got the award last year, S&P Global Commodity said they looked globally, and they really couldn't find another African descendant.
Wow.
Female.
Globally.
Wow.
Wow.
And so to be in a community that has a very high minority level, right? Um, I'm not I'm not Hispanic, but at the core I am. I'm just I just think that everything that's unique about our community, it's hard for us. We can't embrace each other like physically like we normally do.
Sure.
But it's so important for me to be who I am, from this community, raised by this community, supported by this community, and have this opportunity to do what I do. I have a supportive board, John Steen, Trustee Kelly, Ed Kelly, who was the chairman of the San Antonio Chamber, who encouraged me and supported me so much, and to have Dr. Mackey, Trustee Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
supported education and still gives me a huge amount of advice about what it means to lead and to support education. And Trustee Janie Gonzalez, who is a small business owner,
Yes.
leading the effort in technology. And then the mayor, who's working with the judge every single day. Again, it's so, for me, I see San Antonio as this huge connected community, and to know that I'm a product of it from a different side of people assume that I have this silver spoon. I don't have a silver spoon. My only thing I got is my last name is Gold, and and my husband still calls me Paula Gold after many years of marriage. But it just means so much. So I hope that what my leadership has done is to tell every other kid in San Antonio, no matter who you are, you can do better than I. For sure, you can do better, and you can reach your goals. And it doesn't matter what your background is, and it doesn't matter who you know. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything. And I just said yes a lot, and I became a student of everywhere I worked. And I was fortunate, Richard, to meet people like you and others, and watch and learn from you. And now I have the pure benefit of paying it forward. And so I'm blessed in every single way to do that.
Well, that's the perfect way to close this, Paula. You're a treasure. You definitely have a people first attitude. You have had that from the day that I met you. Even before that became kind of what you've done there at CPS Energy, you've always been a people first person. And you're personable, you're caring, and congratulations to you. You have done a phenomenal job running this wonderful utility that gives back so much to all of us. So you're to be commended. So thank you for joining us. I am so excited and pleased to have you. Great.
Thank
All right. So I'm going to close then. I will be sitting down with other influencers here in the coming weeks. And for more information, please visit SA Chamber rapidresponse.org to watch this interview and the others that will be coming. While you're there, check out the various resources that we have for businesses and all the latest updates on COVID-19. And lastly, I want to remind you about the 2020 census. Very important. We need to fill the census out. Please, if you haven't done so, please fill it out. It literally is millions of dollars for a community like San Antonio. You just heard Paula, high minority rate. We all know that. Resources come in. We can use those to put them to good use to help everyone and take our community to another level. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I say thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Influencer Series. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Paula.